What's up?
Hey, Robert.
Doing?
Good. I need help.
What's up? Ask away. We got a good 15 minutes of extra time.
Okay, I did my granddaughter and somehow I missed her and I don't know where I missed it. So I wanted you to, I know we don't have much time for critique during the
Yeah,
class.
yeah. Hold it up. There's only two of you, so let's hold that up, and we'll that'll save time actually.
Okay.
Mister, you mean you didn't get quite the likeness?
Yeah, I just think
Well, I don't know, man. That's pretty damn good. That's pretty damn good. That is really good.
do you think? Somehow I
Yeah, I
feel,
see it. I see it perfectly. I think you did great.
Man.
I would say that maybe, and it could just be the angle of the camera, I don't know. Maybe the hat is a little narrow from left to right.
okay.
Maybe just a hair, and it might be a little too high. So you remember the covering technique where you put a piece of paper
Yes.
underneath a certain point and you do the same point on your drawing? If you put it on the most lowest part of your hat, okay? On
Yeah.
the drawing, and then you put at the lowest point of the hat on the photograph, you could see that round shape of the hat. And I think you got really close. It might be a little too perfectly round, whereas
Okay.
in the photograph, it seemed to be tilted to, as I see it, a little bit to the right, just a hair, which is a minor thing. I mean, I'm nitpicking because it's that good. I don't need to tell you, oh my God, your mouth is way off and the eyes are too tiny or some bizarre thing. No, you are really, really good, man. That's awesome. I think you just need more values. I know you're kind of scared to do the darks. I know you get kind of nervous.
Yeah.
But you just got to do it, and then just jump in there. Do it and treat it like it's. Remember, I tell you guys, just treat it like garbage. You don't care. I mean, this is your granddaughter, so maybe you want to do it here, but with maybe another picture that some random person, like the ones I've set in the past, try to draw it and just don't draw it thinking I love and adore this picture. Rather think of it as this is garbage. It doesn't matter how it comes out because it's just a scrap piece of paper for me to practice what it is, for the darks and lights and everything else. I don't know if you're gonna do the rope swing thing. It looks like you're already at the edge of the paper. So
Yeah, kind of.
you can handle that in different ways. You can do it where you put the shoulders a little lower so it looks like your hands are down, because
Yeah.
it might be confusing, like why are the hands up like, or the shoulders up like that, although it works in your drawing. So just thing to keep in mind, like, I'm not really gonna fit the arms and the swing. Maybe somebody zooming in and seeing the arms up like that, it might look a little off, but
Yeah.
in yours, it actually works. It looks good. Like it looks like their shoulders are at the right height. And we talked about last week how important it is to get the shoulders in the right vicinity. Great with the teeth. They look fantastic. Good job with the eyes. They don't look too big or too small. And it looks like her. That's not impulsive. Does it look like what you're drawing? I think it looks right like your little granddaughter, man. That's awesome. Is this one of the ones that are up north?
Yes. Yep.
That's a cutie there, man. That is awesome.
The hat, I think I erased. I don't know how many times. You probably can't see it on there, but
Yeah,
I made it smaller, so I got to go back to the hat.
Yeah, don't make too much of a fuss with the hat. Remember that those round objects like a bald head, a hat, whatever, they tend to be confusing to figure out the right shape. That's why I would put it, for example, the very bottom rim of the hat. Let me change the camera view here real quick. Okay, here we go. So right around here, okay,
Yeah.
my 1980 99 Red Balloons. That's a good song. Right where the hat at the lowest point, and then the top of the hat would be somewhere around there, okay?
Yep.
You would put a piece of paper like this at the bottom. I can't see, so just imagine where the bottom of the hat is. So you can just see the shape, this abstract round shape of the hat, right? You would do that for your photo and in the same area to your drawing. So that way you see both of them covered up on the same spot. and then you'll see, oh wow, mine is like really, let's just exaggerate. You don't have this problem. Let's just say you did. I did more of a cone. And in the picture, it's much more round, like a half circle or something, right? When you cover it up, it's easier for you to just to have this border and all this covered up. Your brain won't take all this information in, and you'll just see, oh, okay, I see just a shape, and it just makes it so much easier. You know what I mean?
Okay.
Right now, that's another good spot, and I brought this up in the past, but I know it gets confusing. I always advise you guys, check out my videos on YouTube, because I go over it, and then you can pause it and rewatch it. I sometimes, what I'll do with the guys that I like to watch sometimes, I'll sometimes have it in the background as I'm drawing. I kind of believe that maybe subconsciously stuff is kind of sinking in, you know what I mean? So, and I try to make all my videos as much as I can educational. So say the bottom of the ear to the center of my chin. That's another one that I know you've been with me before. You know, I like that area. Because sometimes it's hard to figure out this little turn in the jaw, and it kind of kicks our butt. And we either do it too low or straight or overly round or whatever. So you would put a piece of paper from the bottom of the ear to the bottom of to the center of the chin, like that. And then you would just, now I got a beard, but you get the idea. You would see this little round mound of flesh, and that's all your brain will see. And you would do that on your photo and on your drawing. And then you'll just see the little brown flesh. Wow, man, I did this big old flesh, you know, wow, I'm making her look like she's fat because I did too much, or you didn't do enough. So it's easier to concentrate. So check out the hat, and that I think your shadows definitely need to be punched up a little bit. It's not a very dark drawing, just underneath the hat. It looks like you have what's called a lost edge, where you don't see the edge of the hat and the edge of the hair.
On the hair.
Yeah, so you want to go darker underneath the hat there, okay? That way, because remember, it's that yin and yang, that pull and push thing that happens with values, that darks and the lights, that gives things a sense of shape and form. That's why things will look round to us. Okay, so don't be shy. And something I talked about last year, in the painting world, we do it, it's called flesh balls, right? You know the spheres that I sent you guys?
Yeah.
Okay, it's this. It's a roll of tape, any tape, I don't care. I get this tape, I put it on my paper, I draw either the outside or the inside circumference of this tape here, and I just do 6 of them on a piece of paper. And then use that, now I got the round shape, right? It's done round, I don't have to try to figure it out. Then just look for a picture of a sphere online. You can just Google spheres for drawing or for art. Okay, I sent you guys last year, like probably 5 different pictures of spheres, maybe more. So that's another thing to do. And you practice shading and the shadow and everything on a sphere. I mean, it's really, really simple. And it's just a ton of education that you get. And it's just a roll of tape or the bottom of a plate, like a saucer plate or something like that. Anything, just to make your life easy. And it works. You're going to learn tons about shading, and you're going to start being a little less afraid. Because the big thing, I think, the only thing I can hit you on is you're always afraid to go into the darker areas. Yeah. And that's okay, as long as you do it slow and layer it little by little, so you don't want to go pitch black and find out, wow, that is just way too dark. I went too dark. You want to do it in layers. Keep working through it, do little shadows here and there. Then you stand back. The last 2 or 3 weeks I've seen your work, they look a little on the light side. They lack form. So, I mean, the drawing is amazing. Your drawing skills have really gotten amazing. It's just the sense of that chin, that cheek popping out, you know, those eyes looking like they're sunken in or really sitting inside that skull. That's the only thing it lacks. It's the form. And that's just fear of putting a little bit more material in there. And just working in layers, do it little by little so you don't get, you know, too scared to knock it out. You know?
Okay. Thank you. One more question. Yeah. I was thinking of doing her hat, like putting blue in there just for a little bit of color, like a blue. Would I just do a dark blue, or can you put like the pastel over the black? Because blue is a cool color, you could work it right into the pastel, into the charcoal, because they're very similar in material.
It's not, there's a lot of just dark shadow hat rather than the hat itself. If the hat was coming down to here, you had more of the body of the hat showing, then
Yeah.
I would do it. But being that there's just more black and blue, I don't know that that's the picture that would come to that.
Okay.
You know what I mean? Remember the one of my two daughters?
Yes.
Had a red hat, and then the other one was like, how come you didn't do me with a red hat? So I had to do one for her. Two girls, you know, what do you expect? You could see the hat, and it was like a 3/4 view, and you could see the hat, and you can appreciate the wrinkles and the size of the hat. And so because of that, it made it worthwhile. In your case, there's just not enough material showing to justify using it. You know what I mean?
Okay.
Another one to look at is that piece of that PDF file I sent you guys of the woman with the blue turban.
Mm-hmm.
I sent you guys recently. Look at that one. That's like a little step-by-step thing that I did for you guys before I started doing videos. That's charcoal, but then I went into the turban and I made it blue. Okay. For those of you that want to add a little punch of color to your black and white, it's a really cool effect. Always remember, less is more, because it's very exciting to do that blue turban, for example. And then you're suddenly like, oh my God, what if I did her brown eyes? And then you start doing brown eyes. And what if her yellow shirt or what? And the next thing you know, it looks like an unfinished pastel rather than an accented charcoal. Does that make sense? It's bizarre. So less is more. Pick one thing. Everybody picks the same old thing. Ooh, she's got big, beautiful blue eyes. I've done it. Everybody's done it. Knock yourself out. Get it out of your system. Do it once. You know, everybody's done it. Yeah. I like picking something besides the eyes because everybody does that. So I'll pick, like, say, a scarf or a turban, a hat, something, and that becomes the color, and that's it. Okay. And the colors that are good that you can put over black and it won't be as effective are cool colors. Green and blue are going to be just fine. Something like red could kind of work. Usually will. Just be careful in the really dark areas of the warm colors. And then yellow really will start turning green because black works like a blue when you add it to yellow, right? Blue and yellow make green. So if you told me, Robert, I'm going to make a yellow hat, and you had a lot of charcoal on it, I would tell you, you know, I'd probably not do it or just erase a lot of that charcoal and then just treat it as a pastel.
So you said cool colors with black.
Yeah, they'll mix easier with black.
Okay.
Green and blue, purple, you know, cool colors tend to mix fine with black. And that goes for you painters or anybody out there that likes to paint. In general, they tend to work better. Black tends to work fine with those cool colors and darken them and all that, as opposed to warm colors that they change color on, you know, instead of getting darker. If you can't add black to yellow, you're not going to get a darker yellow. You're going to end up getting green or something, or a weird gray, right? So if you needed to go into some color, I know this is not a class, but always think opposite of the color wheel, where it's complementary. So yellow is complementary to purple. So if I needed to do grays, you add a little purple to your yellow. So maybe I do a yellow foundation for that, let's just say a hat. And then into the shadow areas, I start going over it with a little bit of the purple. Okay? A little bit of extra zing to your day on color theory there, right? Just some basic stuff. And then just sometimes gray itself, people always discount the use of gray. They just don't realize there's a lot more gray in the world than there is color. That's the best way to think about it. And so sometimes you can just add gray right into that yellow, whatever it is, and it'll help you dull it down. Okay? So it looks like it's 11 o'clock. So we're going to get started because we only got so much time. And I'm going to start off with showing you what I'm currently working on. I hope you guys have been getting my emails. And make sure you guys, what do you call it? I'm getting a lot of like residual sound, people's books and stuff like that. So I've sent a few emails out so you guys have videos of some of this stuff, like the little old guy that we were working on the first 2 weeks. I made like a quickie video, and I put some comments there so you guys can see me finish it. And I hope that was helpful for you. So how I finished that first guy that we did, okay? And I promise when we are done with this Asian we're working on, I'm gonna do the same thing, okay? I'm gonna start, I'm gonna do a little quick video.
Morning, Robert. Good morning.
Guys, morning. The original video for the old guy and what's gonna end up being for the Asian girl when I go finish her home was probably an hour and a half or 2 hours. And it was just a lot of boring, you know, watching me play kind of thing. I don't think you want to sit there for an hour and a half to 2 hours watching me shave. So that's why I did it in those like 6-minute hyper fast things. It kind of, and then I give you tips. Just watch how I hold the pencil, how I do the layering of stuff. And that way you can hopefully get something out of it. I try my best to give you all this information, guys. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to switch cameras. I'm going to show you the stuff that I bring in. I love bringing in new stuff so you guys can see what we do in my regular class, when we do regular 12-week classes. And I brought different samples and papers. I don't have a lot of time, so I don't want to go into like how to make them and all that. I already made videos. So just check out my YouTube channel and you'll see it, Rob's Art Class. And you'll see my videos on how to make paper and all that. I'm working on a video. It's my first hyper-ish, okay, hyper-realistic, you know, where people go where it looks like a photograph kind of thing. I'm not really into that. To me, art is art, man-made, there's mistakes. I like that. To me, art is, to me, in my view, if you're making it look like a photograph, you already have enough really good cameras. Why do you need to make it a photograph? But I've been watching these guys work on YouTube channels and other artists, and I admire their work, and I said, you know what? I'm gonna try a small scale. These guys work in 4 or 5 foot size, amazing things. I thought, because I've never done it before, this much realism, I'm gonna do a smaller scale. That's using your brain, right? Don't kill yourself, say, oh, well, this guy just did a 10-foot tall painting. Let me go buy 10-foot tall canvas. You know, that's insanity. If you've never done that, scale it down so you can work through all the problems. So let me change cameras. There we go. Okay. I hope you guys can see that. So there's the, let me put it a little bit closer. I think I can get a little closer. Okay, so on one side you got what's obviously a pastel, okay? That was from one of my workshops, and that's the kind of thing I teach, okay? That's kind of a quickie thing. It's not done, obviously the hair's not done. I just use it for like a sales pitch, I don't know what you call it, just to let you see what I do. So this is my chart, my pastel. Hopefully we'll be doing a workshop in the next few weeks, months, whatever. I'm trying to work something out with a Vac to see how we can do it online. If you get a chance, please email me whenever you get an opportunity, today, right now, next week, whenever, and just let me know, hey Rob, you know, if you did a workshop, I'd be, okay? I don't know exactly how much they charge. I got to work all that out. The most workshops in the past have been between $200 to $400. It all depends, right? If it's oil painting and it's 2 day, 1 day. So there's a lot of those things, but I'm thinking probably $200 on the low end. I have no idea. I make no promises. Just letting you know. Just let me know. Hey, yeah, that's out of my range. See ya. Wouldn't want to be ya. Okay, good. Then I know. Just so I know who's interested and who's not. So this is my attempt at some more of this really high contrast. It's not finished. This is a better part of a day's work. It's a lot of work. As you can see, it took me a long time. It's charcoal. Now, so you know, I used the Canson watercolor paper that I talk about in one of my videos, but this is the big giant roll, the one that comes that's like, it's like 5 feet tall and it's like, I don't know, 12 yards long or something. And I just cut out a small section of it so I can not work so large. And I'm trying to simulate water being splashed on her head, okay? So there's a lot going on here. I'm going for a lot of realism in the face and then realism with the whole water droplet thing. Her hair's not done, there's just a base. And then there's this video that I just made, and I want to say I posted it, but I can't remember, on how I make my own homemade liquid charcoal. Getting it this black just by using a stick is almost impossible, okay? Because once you blend it in, it grays down, right? It loses some of its intensity. So I made my own formula for what I call liquid charcoal, and you paint it on just like you would paint in a painting. And that's basically, I just brush it on. And I got the video where I paint this on my phone still. So I got to download it and finish it and all that fun stuff and put it on for you guys. And these little spots here are going to be little droplets of water. The idea here is to have the contrast between the deep, rich black background and the much lighter skin on top, okay? That's what I'm going for, that really, that high contrast. That's what makes it interesting. Now, I still got quite a ways to go here and quite a ways to go here. And this is a drawing that I started in a video for you guys from scratch. And you just see like 3 lines, the same thing I teach you in class, nothing different, nothing, you know, outside the ordinary. And you see me just draw her from the beginning on just a white piece of paper. Okay, there's no video of this one. This is just a little sample I brought in for fun to show you guys. And then I brought a couple more things. Oh, that fell down. I want to bring a couple more things in just to show you guys the variety of materials that you can get into. So the first one I want to talk about real quick is this brown paper that I'm trying to put on here. I hope you can see that. This brown paper here this is that big roll that you can get at the hardware store, okay, in the painting department. That's what this brown paper is. It's like about, I don't know, 6 inches thick, and it's like 3 feet long. And when you roll it out, it's like 150 feet or something. That is a lot of paper. I've drawn on that in college when I was in art class and all that. And I don't know how acid proof and all that artsy stuff it is, but it's good enough. And because it comes 3 feet by, 100 feet, you can have a good size drawing. And I did a life size figure in college that they hung up at the college years ago. And it came out really, really nice. Okay, and it was really cool to draw that large. Okay, so this is just a roll of that. What I do is I'll use my iron and a flat surface, and I'll just iron out, and I'll spray it with a little bit of like a misty bottle or something, and just, and then iron it out, and it helps to kind of get the curl out of the paper. This is a piece of masonite, okay? Masonite is a brand, actually. It's a piece of what's called hardboard. And let me show you that. So that's what it looks like, right? Brown, whatever. And so I prepared this. I'm not going to go into all the details. I don't got enough time. But this is just really nice and hard. I usually use this stuff to paint on. You get a lot of different effects. And I was inspired to work on this and try to go for this look by, I forget her name. There was an artist that joined the show, the big national show they got here in, I think it's February every year. And she does work on, I believe it's masonite. It's hard to tell because it's all framed up, but it looked to me like masonite. So I said, you know what? I'm going to go home and I'm going to see if I can prepare a piece of masonite to work on. And this was just a little afternoon quickie project, just trying to figure things out. And then I wasn't sure how it would take pastel, even though I have done pastel on this, but with the black background, it was kind of a different thing. And so I did this halo thing, kind of like a Virgin Mary thing, with some white, yellow, and orange. I think some red, I can't remember. And so I did that little halo thing there, okay? And so this was kind of just a little experiment. And I just wanted you guys to see what you use for your artwork, that it goes beyond paper, okay? That way you guys can see all the possibilities of stuff, because sometimes as artists, we get really creative and we kind of start, at least in my case, I get bored, this stuff gets boring for me. So I started looking for different things to draw on, different things to paint on, different subject matter. So anyway, I hope you like that. And if you got any questions about that stuff, just email me the questions. That way we don't got to take too much time in class, and we'll get cracking. So Norma, I already saw yours this morning. So we'll go really quick critique. I don't have a lot of time. So we'll go over to Kay McLeod, Plan McLeod. Yes, she was in pastel for the person I just asked. All right, Kay. Very nice. Now we're going to finish the Asian lady here. Remember, I wanted you guys to work on something else just so you guys don't get bored. Okay. I wanted you guys to work on something else because, I mean, unless you feel like drawing her again, that's fine. I got no problem with that. But just so you know, very, very nice. All right, Susan.
All right. I finished this guy.
Wanted to finish the old guy. Very nice.
Yeah.
Very
And
good.
then I also had to do this twice. I have this photo I took several years ago of a snake handler at the Seminole Rodeo.
Yeah.
And what I did with him was, I'll have to show it to you in pieces.
Okay.
I did his face, and then I just did the snakes, and without much accent on the rest of them.
Yeah, I see that.
That looks good.
Very nice.
And when you talked about coloring things, what you can't see on this is that this is a coral snake, and
Right.
the other one is a harmless milk snake.
Right.
And
Wow,
that's,
that would be a nice one that you could accent the snakes on in the future.
yeah, well, I thought maybe just coloring in the red and yellow on the snakes, maybe.
Oh, there you go. Yeah. You know,
Yeah.
experiment. Try to hit it, whatever. Now, you know what? I'm going to just say real quick because what Susan just held up. I want to talk a little bit for just a second about size, okay? When it comes to art, I have my own opinion. Remember, art is opinion, okay? It doesn't mean that it's fact and that you have to do it or else you're going to go to jail or anything. It's just my opinion based on common sense. If I'm going to do a drawing of this, like this Asian girl we got here, right? All we got is what? A head and some shoulder. I can do that in something as small as a 9x12, 11x14 or larger, right? Once I start including more of her body, say I wanted to go to just below her breasts. Let's just say I was going to do that. I would start thinking a little bit larger than 9x12. I would start thinking something like a 12x18 or 11x14, because now I got more information, so I need to blow it up more on my drawing. Right? I need to make it a little bit bigger, right? And then let's just say I took it even further. I was going to do a half a torso, right? From like, say, her waistline up to the top of her head. If I was going to include a half a torso, I would definitely be going with a 18x24 or larger. Okay. And then of course, anything bigger than that, a 3/4 body or a head to toe, then it would be at least an 18x24 or larger. And the reason is, okay, it's very common sense reason, is if you did say an entire head to toe body on something like this piece of paper right here, there's a little 8x10 paper, right? The head would be so minuscule, so tiny, that the eyes would be the size of an ant's butt. It would be hard to really get it to look like whoever, whatever it is. It would be so minuscule that it would be very uncomfortable to hold your pencil and deal with this extremely tiny little thing, right? At least for me. That's why I go by the more I want to show, the bigger my paper needs to be. Okay? That's just my own personal rule, my own personal way of seeing things. You do whatever you want. Okay, but that, I think that over the years, the students that I've had have learned that. They're like, yeah, I see what you mean. It's just more comfortable to work with a head that you can see the head, you know, facial features and working them. If not, you're going to be sharpening your pencil nonstop, just trying to do something so tight. Okay, so that's just another tip. Okay, Bethany, you're next. Wow, good job. Very nice. Now you're doing it on white paper, I think?
Right.
Okay. So you're going to be limited to only charcoal, which is fine. That's kind of like what one of the drawings that I just showed you. It's just charcoal because obviously white paper, you can't put white chalk. I'd like you guys, whenever possible, try to get yourself those mid-tone papers, you know, like those gray papers from Canson or whatever brand you want, so you can practice the use of the white charcoal. It kind of expands your ability to do your values. It's just one more tool in your toolbox. Very nicely done. Great job with the hair. I think it's just amazing. Really, really good job. The proportions are impressive for somebody who just started with me. That is really, really well done. I love the forehead. I like that nice round shape. It looks good. Be careful with that, what would be his left side of his temple. It looks like a little bit, like it's popping out a little bit on his left temple. This is my left temple. It looks backwards on my camera. I don't know what it looks like. It looks like it's kind of like popping out. That little minimal sting like that. But Everything else looks fantastic. Good job with the shading. Okay. And be careful with the eyes. They're recessed in there, so the iris is actually quite dark. Okay. So be careful. I see on his right eye, looks like it's almost like a dot, at least from what I can see. And then
Yeah, I kept working on the eyes and then erasing them, and I couldn't get the eyes right, but
just put in some charcoal in there.
cross-eyed, and I sort of gave up on the eyes after a while.
Put charcoal in there and just blend it around, and that's it. Because there's really not a lot of detail in his eye because of the lighting situation he was in. Okay.
Yeah.
Very good, Anthony. All right, Tuck, how you doing, buddy? Yeah, unmute yourself.
Sorry, I'm so slow there, Rob.
That's all right, brother. Let's see what you got cooking today.
Okay, I'm still working on,
Oh yeah, look at that. Very nice. Look at that. He's got great values. I see it coming off of his into his forehead there. Good job. And you're working on white paper too, it looks like, right?
no, this is the tan paper.
Oh, the tan paper. Okay. On my screen, it looks a lot lighter. So
Yeah.
that's a good paper because you can still use the white charcoal. It takes it just fine. That's the Strathmore one. That's 14, right?
Let me see, it is the, yeah,
Strathmore, yeah. I've done tons of drawings on that paper. It's not as forgiving as the Canson. And let me tell you, for a student, for somebody wanting to learn how to do this, that to me is a better paper only because it's less forgiving. So when you start making mistakes and you, like, for example, people press too hard, that is not going to be as forgiving as other brands of paper. Okay. And so you're going to learn the hard way. Wow. I gotta ease up on the pressure, man. I got to hold the pencil the way Robert taught me. Okay. Which in the end will benefit you. Okay. So if you can, as a student, use the Strathmore. It will whip you into shape. It will tell you, hey, I don't like this, man. You erase too much on me. I'm not gonna give you a surface to work on. You know, you press too hard on me, you're not gonna get rid of that line. And that in itself is a teaching element, I think. Okay, good job, man.
thank
All
you.
right, Laura, you're next. Laura, you're next. You gotta unmute yourself, baby.
You want me?
You're next.
Oh, wait a minute. What am I, oh. Well, I fixed this. Can you see that?
There we go.
I fixed it.
I see it.
It's better. Remember last week I had all the white on it? There was lots of white. I fixed that. And now he looks still more like Robert De Niro, but,
You're killing me, man. You're killing me, Smalls. You're killing me.
right, so his beard is better.
Yeah, much better.
Yeah, so
Okay, so look at the video of him.
I did look at the video, yes, and that's when I looked at your video. That's why I put all the black in and did all that in array and used the this thing a lot. I use this a lot to do the white, and everything.
And you guys don't have to do all the charcoal, Rob. I just did it for fun, okay? Because it kind of gives it that, I don't know, spooky kind of look, you know?
Yeah.
And I just thought it looked good. But sometimes I don't put anything in the background whatsoever.
Right,
Sometimes
I know, but I just thought it helped with his hair.
yeah, it helps with the hair too.
The picture that I had, the way I copied it, it didn't look exactly like yours, but that's my excuse. Okay.
I see you got the thick eraser. I like these because the ones that you buy like at the office supply store that are like, they're twice as thick as this. Let me see if I can hold it up to, see that? That's like 1/8 of an inch.
All right, you told me that before, and what I did is I took a sharpener and I made it more into a thin point, because I have the other one too. I have,
But let me just say, the problem is with those thicker ones that are like 1/4 of an inch thick, that are twice as thick, that you buy for like 99 cents, the eraser itself is very wobbly. It's a very
it is, you're right.
soft eraser. And what ends up happening, even when you sharpen it to a point, you can't do this to erase
Right. So I use this one more.
harder material. And
This
so
one, I don't know where the thing is there. I use this one more.
Tombow, that's a good one.
Robert, where do you get that eraser?
You can get it at Amazon. I think they're like between $6 to $10. something
They're
like
not battery operated?
No,
No,
you can get the battery one, but I honestly, I have one at home, and then a student of mine bought two to give me one for a Christmas gift one time. And a long time ago, I played with it for like probably a couple drawings, and I just never used it again. That's really good. I'll tell you what that's good for. If you have a really stubborn spot where you try to get a lot of that off, you sharpen it to point, and maybe that highlight because you went dark in the eye or something like that, and the aggressiveness of the little rotation will help to take out that little highlight or something. But if you're just careful, I mean, students that have been with me, there's like 3 that have been with me for like 2 or 3 years now. This is all I ever
It's
use.
called an eraser pencil or eraser?
Yeah, it's I sent you guys the information online. Remember, I sent you an email, the actual brand and everything. So look through your emails.
Okay.
If you guys delete emails, you can go to your email and look at deleted emails, and then you'll see the stuff on there. But I get people.
I wanted to show you this. Well, you probably saw this last time, but that's the guy.
Very nice. Yeah, not yet. It's too long here. It looks a lot better now.
I think I'll make them, I should make some darks, more darks though, right?
I always say work your values slowly, you know, and like the value. And then once you kind of got almost like a finished picture almost, you stand back and look at it and like, okay, I definitely got to go darker here, a little darker here. That's a safer way. Imagine you went black, right? You went black in a certain spot because you thought it was that dark. Now, you look at the finished product and you're like, holy smokes, that is way too dark. I wish I could go back in time and change it. To take that black and make it go down to a lighter value is much more difficult, okay, than having it lighter and then darkening it more because you said, oh, it needs to be darker. That's why I always teach, stay in the middle ground. Then you can easily add more dark to it. It's a safer way of working where you're not having to put Band-Aids all the time and constantly erasing. Okay, Julie, you're next.
Hey, Robert, good morning. I just have the painting I was working on, so
Okay. Make time whenever you can, get some charcoal. Remember, because I know I got some painters and I've had a lot of painters over the years in my class. I've given oil painting workshops. Drawing in black and white is the best way to teach yourself everything else, okay? It teaches you pastels, it teaches you painting, it teaches everything else because colors don't matter, believe it or not. Values matter. So getting your values correct, getting it the right amount of dark and the right amount of light, that's more important than getting the exact perfect yellow or the perfect red. Because if you know that there's red apples in the world, and everybody knows that, if I do a red apple, maybe it's not exactly the red that is in the apple sitting in front of you, but it's close. So you're not going to question, you know, why is that a red apple? No, most apples are red, right? All you're looking at is, wow, this apple looks like I can pick it up and eat it because the apple has the shadows and the midtones and everything else and the highlight. It looks round. It has form. You feel like you can reach out and grab it. And the last thing the person's going to think about is whether the red is right or not. Nobody's going to care about that. Nobody's going to care that the red is too red or not red enough. Nobody's going to care. Okay. That's why I like using Versailles when I paint, which is a black and white underpainting. And then you can go over with glazes of color. And that almost does all the work for you. Okay. But that's a different thing. Okay. Pat, you're next.
well, that's the dog.
Oh, very nice dog. Oh yeah,
Thank
you sent me that through an email. That's very nice.
I've practically redone it. I have a problem with when to stop, so
Don't kill yourself. Just go in there, you know, get her done. Give yourself a time frame, like a goal, and then move on. Because that's a big thing with artists. They don't
it's
know when
for somebody else and I just can't seem, I just feel like it's never gonna be good enough, so it has to get done.
in your eyes as an artist, it will never be good enough. That's why I just do it till it's good enough. Remember, good enough for government work, Julie. That's all you gotta worry about. Don't get over
I should know about that, Robert.
Just don't go crazy with it. Just get it good enough. All right, Pat, you're next.
Okay, I'm just working on this right now, laying this out. Didn't get a whole lot done this week.
Okay, that's okay. You know, life happens. I just got back from Disney. Less than 12 hours.
You went to Disney?
Yeah, I'm freaking tired. I do not go to Disney for me. I go for my kids.
So I'm just working on this right now.
Very nice. Do you have a photograph of it?
Yes, yeah, I have it right here. This is the thing that,
Oh, you're working on the, okay, we're working on her in
Yeah.
class.
yeah.
That's fine. Okay. Jen, you're next. Ooh, very nice. Those look like your friends or something, like, or your kids or what?
It's my son and his girlfriend.
All right. Very nice. You got, damn it, man. That's really nice. And she's doing a dual drawing, which can be pretty complex. Do you see how, as she holds it up, the way, here's just another quick tip. See how she's got her son is the tallest one, right? I don't know how she handled it, but the way I would do it is I'd worry about him. And then I know that in the photograph, the girlfriend is as tall, the top of her head is coming off, say, the mouth line, right? Like my wife is down to my chin. My wife is 5 feet tall.
Okay, here's the picture.
Oh, beautiful. You see that? And the top of her hairline is coming to about the guy's mouth, right? Right around her son's mouth. So that, you know that if, let's just say I'm the son, right? Let's just say I'm this. This is me. You know that the person next to me starts more or less around my mouth line. Once you're done with me, you go to my mouth line and you say, well, this is the top of the other person. And that's, their head comes down to my nipple line, the pocket on my shirt, a wrinkle, whatever, okay? That's how I handle dual portraits, or when there's more than one person, you know, hugging or kissing or whatever, they're standing next to each other like in your portrait. That looks fantastic.
Thank you.
Is really a great picture, man. Really great picture. And sometimes you can do like an abstract background with a little black charcoal just to add a little value back there and mix in a little white going into the black. You know, if you're not sure, get a scrap piece of paper and just kind of play with it and see what that does for you.
Okay.
And you a napkin and blend it out one into the other. You get the, you know, some of the dark going into some of the light and get this little mid-tone gray. And that just gives you like an abstract kind of interesting background. If you felt like it, you don't have to. You know?
Okay. Hey, Rob, I got like, I don't know if you can see it, but fingerprints.
Yeah.
Is that, I touched it too much?
Yeah, sometimes the oils from your finger, I get sweaty hands. So, you know, try erasing them, okay? And see
Okay.
if it works. If it doesn't come off, you can go around it with the pencil, add some value to that area, and then just take a napkin or a chamois or something and just lightly chamois it. So it doesn't look like a fingerprint. It looks like just more material, like a wrinkle or something from the shirt. You know what I
Okay.
mean?
Just make sure it's the kneaded eraser.
Yeah, the kneaded eraser at first. So that's my go-to
That'll
eraser.
pick up the oil too.
Okay.
Okay.
That's my go-to eraser 9 times out of 10. The only time I don't use a kneaded eraser is when I'm grabbing my little clicky pencil here, my clicky eraser, and that's for the little tiny things. A lot of you guys are grabbing those big white erasers like this thing. This thing's
No.
I don't use it. I just keep it so people can see it and be like, you know, I give it to students in their kit because I understand you haven't practiced pressure and learned to not press so hard. This will take off more material. You just got to be more careful.
Robert, she might also try Mr. Clean white sponge. Don't wet it, but just place it on it. That helps me oftentimes with get out of a lot of troubles.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah.
There we
Okay,
go.
but don't wet it, of course.
Okay.
All right.
Hey, Rob,
Yes, sir.
you might show her how you clean the eraser also. You know how you bend it and
Oh,
clean
yeah.
it? Because that really makes a difference too. Is
Okay.
Rob's is really dirty,
Yeah.
but he's going to show you how to clean it And you still use that same eraser over and over because it's meant to do this. That's what the kneaded part is, right? Yeah, you see him right now. He's just basically bending it into itself over and over and over. And if you do that about 10 times, next thing you know, the eraser's white.
Yep.
So that's what you want to use to clean the clean part.
Okay.
Just like Rob's doing right there. That's awesome. Because that eraser he just had was like the color of the shirt, the blouse of that lady. But now it's already gray.
Now, another tip of the erasers, sometimes they get stiff, especially up north, where it gets real cold. I'll just knead it in my hands a little bit, let the heat from my hand. I've even microwaved it for like 10 seconds in the past, just to kind of heat up the material, and that kind of softens it up a little bit, okay? You don't always gotta go to that extreme, but usually I just, the heat in my hand, I just do this for a little bit, and it just kind of makes it soft, you know? Because if not, if it's really stiff, whatever charcoal and junk was on it will transfer to your paper, okay? You know, as you go to use it, you could transfer some charcoal. Okay, all kinds of great questions and comments. Everybody seems to be pumped up. I'm pumped up. Let's get cracking on the Asian girl we were working on last week. And this is our last class. I'm kind of a little bit depressed about that. I like teaching you guys. Hopefully, I think they're going to start another session of teaching. I think it's going to be online in October, and then they might have some live classes. You know, it depends on the whole coronavirus thing. So we'll see how that goes. So I'm getting my little HB pencil out, and I'm working flat for your benefit. The easel thing was kind of like putting everything in a really skewed angle, and I just didn't like that. You know, I felt like maybe you guys weren't able to see it right. So I'm working flat. So here's another tip. If you gotta work flat for some reason, I never do, but if you have to, you can't tell, but my paper, my board is actually on an incline up, okay? The top part of it has a roll of paper towels underneath it. The reason is I want it facing me. If you put it too flat away from you, what ends up happening is you'll elongate things as you're drawing, and you won't even know you're doing it, okay? Then you'll put it up, and when you stand the drawing up, everything looks like a little bit taller and skinny. It's just because your point of view was like that, okay? So if you can work on an easel and have this thing parallel to your eyes, in this case, I'm gonna try my best. I haven't drawn flat in a very long time. So we got all the proportions pretty much last week. We got all that done. I'm just gonna point out maybe just a few little minor things, but we got all the big stuff done, and we're really gonna just concentrate on doing shapes at this point. And I'm gonna look over here. I'm just putting my little stick, and it's the bottom of her ear is right around the bottom of her nose. So now I know that the lowest part of her ear is roughly equivalent to the lowest part of her nose. So I'm just gonna go to the lowest part of her nose, just like this. I'm just gonna make a little line, a little light line, just so I know, okay, that's that. And now I know that that means that. Got all kinds of noises on this computer. And this line here represented this circle and white dot area here, right where her little sideburn starts. I'm just gonna kind of shape this out, and notice how I'm holding my pencil, right? It's floating in my hand, and that's gonna give me that nice light line, and it prevents from me, you know, if I did this, like if I was writing a check, the problem is you're gonna end up putting so much pressure, you're gonna have a heck of a time trying to make these lines disappear later, okay? Because you're not gonna get it right the first time. Nobody does. And so now this little, I wanna point this little part of anatomy. You got this straightaway roughly, or this angle coming off her ear, and then it turns to the bottom of her jaw, right? Where do those two angles meet? Well, I'm gonna just draw a black line for you to see. Hopefully you can see it. There's that one straightaway there, and then here's the bottom of her jaw. I'm just gonna do roughly a straight line, and I know you can't see it, so right where they intersect, I'm just gonna circle it, okay? I'm doing this very graphic, depiction here. Hopefully you can see that. Let me draw it a little bit brighter. Right there. That's where they intersect. That's where this angle intersects this angle, okay? Now, where is this dot? Well, all I got to do now is use my little stick here, my little barbecue skewer, and it's roughly around the mouth line, maybe a hair below it. So now I know that right around the mouth line, just a hair below it, is where that intersection goes from this angle to this angle. And you notice how I'm just doing kind of straight lines. I'm gonna do the same circle on my drawing, just to hopefully you guys in the video can go back and know what I'm talking about in case you're confused. And what that does, it gives me the same destination, the same point, right? And I'm even gonna make sure that this circle here, this little dot, is a little bit, what I would call in front of the sideburn, right? And then here on the drawing, excuse me, on the photograph, it is a little bit to the side of the sideburn, right? A little bit in front of it. And so I'm doing it in the same spot roughly. Okay, I'm just verifying what I'm seeing. Okay, this is slowed down immensely. I do this from life in seconds. Okay, I want you guys to know that because, not because I want you to think how awesome I am. I just, I don't care what you think about me. I want you to know that this slow thing that I'm drawing out to be a 2-week drawing and everything else, I do this by eye and very, very quickly from life when I go to life drawing sessions when they're available and when my schedule allows it. Okay, it's the exact same thing. I don't fall back on some other set of rules or some other trick or anything else. No, I'm doing the same darn thing when I draw from life. It's just that instead of putting it onto the person's face who would likely kick you or something, right? I'm just doing this from a distance, like what I taught on day one, right? When I do this thing with my thumb and looking at it from a distance. That's it. That's it. So it's a little more inaccurate. It's a heck of a lot more difficult, but it is very good practice. If you have a chance to go to a life drawing class here at the VAC, they used to have them on Thursdays. I don't know what they're going to do this year because of the whole COVID-19 thing, but they had them on Thursday mornings, 9 to 12. And I always encourage my students to go to that. Don't think you're the only one that's a student in there, okay? Oh no, but I'm really, really horrible, Robert. Listen, 99% of the people there are just as bad as you are, if that makes you feel any better, okay? So if you think you're horrible, go over there. You'll probably see people that are even worse than you are. Okay, it's just meant for fun, and it's not a taught thing. You're not being taught anything. It's not a instructional class. It's just a model, and you take your own supplies, and they have the easel and everything else for you, and you just go in there and practice. I'm just checking out the angle of certain things. And I would be doing this by just holding it up to the model, right, as I would see it. Here I got a picture that doesn't need a coffee break or move. That's convenient. Now look at the part in her hair, right? Here's a simple one. The part in her hair, I'm just gonna say that this is the midpoint or right where the hair parts. I'm gonna just do a line for you guys. Right there. I did nice and big. Let's just say that this line represents where the part in the hair is. I know it kind of does like a snake thing, but roughly it's being parted right there. Where the heck is this, right? Well, you get your barbecue skewer or pencil or whatever, and you just do a vertical plumb line. I keep it parallel with the edge of the paper, my little stick. I just go like this, and I say, what is touching that stick, right? What touches it? Well, the very edge of this shadow right here, coming off of her nose, and just to the side of her philtrum, right? That little dip on your lip, on your upper lip, just touching that little peak. So now I know that it's roughly going to be in my drawing, roughly around here. I don't have all those other details drawn in, but I just know from practice, from experience, it's roughly going to be there. And it's a part in the hair, guys. Don't get so anal with it. It doesn't have to be that perfect. So now I know that the part in the hair is going to be roughly around there. And then it goes and curls back, and it does something like this. And so here's one where I'm going to use a little example of the whole covering technique that I was talking about this morning with the extra little 30 minutes of class. Oh, by the way, they wanted me to tell you guys that little extra time that I added at the beginning of class is only because of this little 4-week thing that I'm doing. Okay, during the regular classes when they're much longer, I think they'll go back to 3-hour classes. You won't have access until the class actually starts. Okay, that has to do with the memory and all that stuff. So, you know, if class starts at 9, you will get access from 9 to 12, even if I'm here early. Okay, I just do that because, you know, I want to see if I can get as much information out as possible. I got such a short amount of time. So I'm using the part in the hair, and then where the hair touches the forehead over here. So here and here on the photograph and on my drawing. This is what I mean by doing the covering technique. You can see I'm covering the same 2 areas on my photograph and on my drawing. I do the same thing drawing from life by just holding up my hand like this and then covering something up, you know, whatever it is. Now I can just see this abstract shape right up top for her hair. You see that little lump, that little hill, and then it has a little tiny bump again? I'm trying to look at mine saying, you know, mine's just a little bit bigger version, because I'm drawing it bigger than the photo of what I see. Now it's just, I know, oh man, I went out too far, I didn't come in enough, whatever the little issue is, you can now see it much more clearly and much more exact. And it didn't require any tools or anything. It required just literally a napkin from the bathroom. Okay, that's pretty cheap, pretty easy. And I take it off and bing, bang, boom. That's not bad. And here's some of those lights. And so I'm gonna just give you some more tips as I do this. Let me move the photo over a little bit. So let's look at her hair on this side over here. You can see that it's somewhat thick here, then it opens up and becomes a little thicker right around these 2 points, right, from here to here, right, from her forehead to here. It's a little thicker, and it becomes like a funnel, right? It just becomes smaller. So keep that in mind. The hair is roughly the same around here, opens up just a little bit, and then just starts to funnel and become smaller. So you see it as just a shape, right? So let me just cover that up real quick just to show you what I mean. Look at that shape of the hair. See that crazy looking shape? That's what you're trying to concentrate on visually, okay? That's hard to do as a student. It takes a lot of practice to try to ignore someone's face and just see that one chunk of hair or cheek or whatever. Just practice, practice, practice. And so I want that funnel shape. So I want to make sure that I got something that looks, and it's hair, so don't get crazy. It just needs to look close. So I'm going to just draw something that looks similar to that shape. Okay, so we're using proportions, but we're also using shapes to help make decisions. And now how low, or excuse me, how high is that ear? The top of her earlobe over here on this side. Where is that? I'm going to use a horizontal plumb line, right? Isn't that great? She doesn't move, she doesn't sneeze, and it's right above her eye, right where the eyelid is, roughly. So that's pretty much going to be right around there. So I'm just going to draw a little line, just has to be close. Now I know how high and how low the ear was that I did earlier, right? Here's really super duper anal stuff. Okay, you ready for this? Robert, how far back, how big are her ears, right? A little anal for my taste, but whatever. So here's the little dot right by where we said was the edge of her face, by where the sideburn is. I'm going to measure from that to the outside of that ear. And I get that much on my pencil here, right? From my fingernail to the tip of my pencil. And that's equivalent to, and then I just take that and just kind of compare it and say, roughly the chin to the mouth line, maybe a little bit less. So roughly chin to the mouth line. And now I go like this. And now I know roughly the ear goes back about that much. And you're going to end up getting, let me just draw it on my photo. You're going to get something that on your paper is going to have the top, the bottom. You already know the side is that sideburn. And now you know how far back that ear is. And you see how that looks like a rectangle, right? That's basically what we are. We're just a bunch of little rectangles within one big old large rectangle called the head, right? See this? This is her big old rectangle head. And then we got a bunch of little rectangles that we call eyes and nose and mouth and everything else within that larger rectangle, okay? Try to kind of keep that as a concept. So I'm going to go over here. I'm going to just kind of keep messing with this. And oh man, Robert, I'm not sure that I measured that right. It looks a little off, whatever, right? Double check. Let's just say, for example, this hair from right here where it touches her face to the back right here. How big is that? Simple comparative measurements. I'm gonna just measure that, right? And I'm gonna say, what's this similar to? And it looks almost like an eye. So I put it to her left eye, and it's a little bit bigger than an eye. So I know that this space needs to be a hair bit bigger than an eye. So I go to my eye, and I say, yeah, I got close. I got close because I'm out a little bit more. And that's how you go fixing, I guess you could say. Right? That's how you go around making these decisions saying, wow, that's looking a little small to me. How do I know? What do I do? You do that. You go check what it is here on your photo, and then you see what the measurement is on your drawing. You say, wow, I am way off, or, you know, I got close enough. So this neck, right? I'm gonna go down to this neck area. I'm trying to bounce around because I want to just show you different examples of how to measure different areas, how to check yourself all over the place. Okay, putting in shapes, it's not that difficult. So now I'm gonna look at the bottom of her chin, and I'm just gonna use the top of her shirt right here on her collar, the lowest point right here. Use my white pencil for that. Right? How big is that space? Right? Say you're gonna include the shoulders and the sweater. How big is that? Well, I'm gonna take a quick measurement of that. I'm gonna say from her chin to her sweater, the collar is that much. What is that? That means absolutely nothing to me. This is nothing until I measure it, until I compare it to something else. And let's see if it's giving me something exact. From the eyebrow to the nose line, almost exactly the same thing. From the eyebrow to the nose line, I'm gonna take that where I just left off on my drawing. I'm gonna go from my eyebrow to my nose line on my drawing. Bring that measurement, I'm gonna put it down to her chin. And then on my fingernail, I'm gonna draw that line. And now this should be roughly, to keep within the same proportions, this should be the lowest point of that collar, which is right here. Then this shape right here for the neck, where does the neck come out? Where does the neck come out of? On her chin, it comes out right here. Where is that? Well, I'm gonna use a plumb line, I'm gonna follow it up. And it's pretty much in line with the part in her hair. So, hey, that's convenient, we did that earlier. The part in her hair, follow it down vertically, and it's that. And then I'm just gonna try to copy this shape as I see it. And it comes out. How far out does this collar right here, how far out does that go? So again, if I'm not sure, if you're really not good at seeing that in your head, just say if this goes out, the flesh, where it touches that collar on that side, comes out to about right there, which is about the center of her right eye. So about the center of her right eye, somewhere around there. And now I got a rough estimate of how far that goes. See how easy this is, guys, right? And it's just repeating the same thing. Same whole thing. Just keep repeating the same procedures of measuring it and then comparing it, measuring it and comparing it against something else. Okay, there's that. So I'm going to go into the eye real quick. I'm going to talk about how I do the eye. So for the eye, I think, you know what I'm going to do? I think I'm going to do, you know what? I'm going to do an eye demo. People love eye demos, and I think that's more educational than just finishing her off. Okay, I'm going to finish her off in a video anyways on my YouTube channel. So you're going to see this being finished and shaded just like the old guy. So I'm just going to do the eye. I'm going to do her left eye, the one that's looking right at me more. I'm going to draw it right up here. So I'm just going to get rough estimate of size. Let me just lower it a little bit so you guys can see it better. So I'm going to get some rough proportions of that eye. And so this is roughly the top and bottom and the left and right of that eye, okay? Left and right and the top and bottom of her eye, okay? I just did it really quick, so it might not look exactly the same, but I don't have a lot of time, so I just want to show you guys, how do I start drawing an eye, okay? And the nose and mouth will be the exact same thing, and I'll show you that in a minute. So here's her eye, okay? Nice big blown up version. I got this box around her eye, just like I got right here on her photograph, okay? And I say, okay, where's the tear duct? I go to the extreme outside points or edges of things. where's her tear duct in this box? It's right here on this bottom left corner. So it's a little higher than that. So somewhere in this bottom left corner, but a little higher than the corner, I'm gonna put a little circle because it reminds me of that little pinky flesh area where your tears come out of. Then over here on the corner of her eye, right? Where is that? Well, I'm gonna draw a little line where the two eyelids meet. Here's the top of the eye. Here's the bottom of the eye. Notice that this little line right in the middle, I'm not sure if you can see that. Let me see if I can finagle the camera. I hope you guys can see that. So here's the top of the eye, here's the bottom of the eye, and then here's where the two eyelids meet. Not quite in the middle, it's a little bit higher than the middle, right? A little bit higher than the middle of the top and bottom. So let's come over here. Try my best to finagle this camera here. And so here's my tear duct. And so here's the halfway point. I'm gonna go a little higher than halfway. And that's gonna be the corner of her eye. So I'm just copying the same idea, the same proportions I'm doing on my drawing. Then, let me just zoom out just a little bit. I'm gonna try to keep it like this. I think this is better for you guys. So those are the two extremities, the 2 points. Then I'm gonna look at the pupil, right? I'm just gonna draw a line. It's gonna look like a demon or a snake or something when I do that. So there it is. Now look at the left and look at the right, right? The furthest left and the furthest right edge of that eye. Where's the pupil? The pupil isn't right in the middle of that space. Let me extend these lines for it, make it a little easier. I'm just trying to show you how when you look at things as a top and bottom and a left and right, it does not matter what you're drawing. All you need to worry about is where the middle, a third, or halfway is, or a quarter of it, or whatever. Where is this pupil? It's not in the middle. It's a little bit to the right of center, correct? A little to the right of center. So on my drawing, I need to have it a little to the right of center. So I'm gonna go and estimate the best I can. I'm gonna say this is middle for me, so I'm gonna go a little right of center. And there you go. Now I got something that simulates what I see proportionally speaking on my drawing. I hope you're all with me on this so far, okay? I'm just doing a larger version of what I see. Now, look at how much further we can break this down. The outside of this iris is right here. In between this little space, the middle of it, this little space, the middle of it is the outside of that iris. The outside of this iris, right, is right here. What is that? About a third of this space? I don't know. Doesn't have to be perfect. Something like that. Now you got something that reflects pretty accurately the sides of the iris for this eye. Now, I don't usually have to go into this much detail in my own personal drawings from experience, okay? I can just do it. But a lot of you draw really tiny, itsy bitsy little eyes or really big eyes, and you're trying to figure out, you know, why am I doing this bizarre eye thing? If you break it down even further, the way I'm showing you, you'll get much more accurate faster, okay? And now it's a matter of copying the shape, right? I'm gonna worry about that upper eyelid. So I'm gonna go like this, and it starts to go from this, I'm gonna say straight away, and right where it hits the iris is where it starts to kind of flatten out, and it comes back down at the other end of the iris. So it kind of flattens out around here, and then it kind of comes down at the other end of the iris, which is over here. And remember, the upper eyelid is always on top of the bottom eyelid, okay? You never want, like when the wrinkle goes off like this, like crow's feet and all that, the iris, the eyelid on top is on top of the bottom eyelid. You never want to draw the eyelid on the bottom, okay, the bottom one on top of the top one, because that's just physiologically impossible. It does not work that way. Okay, now the bottom eyelid, it kind of curls around gently, and I'm just trying to copy the curl that I see. Curls around like so. And then I step back. I cannot stress how important it is to step back from your drawing as often as you can, okay? Remember what I told you guys, set a little egg timer, put the timer on your phone, 30 to 45 minutes, okay? And then actually get up off your butt and look at it from a good 6 to 10 feet away. And you will see tons of mistakes. Then I look, now I got so many lines on my drawing, it's hard to see it, but I want to erase some of them. Then I look at how much of the iris is exposed. You'll notice like the top third or so of the iris is cut off. And then you do see roughly the bottom of it. The bottom of it is touching, just kissing the bottom eyelid. Like so. And then the pupil, the little black dot in the iris, is always in the center of the iris. Okay? Remember that. Tattoo that to your brain. The pupil is in the center of the iris. It is not in the center of the eye opening. Okay? So if I draw this iris for you as though you had x-ray vision and you can see through her eyelid, the iris would be, I don't know, about that much higher, right? And then inside this circle, I put the iris. And you'll notice when you look at yourself in the mirror or when you look at your relatives and your friends around you, you'll start seeing them differently. You'll notice the pupil is always closer to the upper eyelid rather than the bottom eyelid, just because that's the way we are built. Our bottom eyelid doesn't really move much and there's not a lot of flesh there. The upper eyelid is the one that closes our eyes, right? Comes down to close our eye. Our lower eyelid doesn't go up to close our eyes, okay? We're not space aliens. It's the upper eyelid coming down. And so there is an x-ray vision of the iris. Then there's kind of a crappy photo. So then you try to mess around with the little shape of it. There's like a little shelf, let's call it, a little pink shelf, which is basically the thickness of the bottom eyelid, okay? You always see that because most people, when you see them straight on, you'll see that thickness of that bottom eyelid. You won't necessarily see the thickness of the flesh of the upper eyelid because the upper eyelid is usually eye level to us, so we don't see it. Now I'm just erasing some of that. I usually like to do a nice eye devil, but this is such a limited class. I don't have enough time. And so do that. And she doesn't have a lot of wrinkles. She's a young girl. And so there's some shadow there. Then the bag of the eye down here, okay? If you find or you're drawing an older person, here's a little older person tip. Okay, I'm just gonna exaggerate the bag of the eye just for the sake of this explanation. The bag of the eye usually ends, or the lowest part of it is right around halfway between the bottom of the nose and the top of the eyebrows, right? So I'm just gonna draw on the photograph. Her bottom eye bag, right? The bag under your eyes is roughly, I'm just gonna draw a line right there. And here's her nose line, and here's the top of her eyebrow. It's usually somewhere about halfway between there and there, okay? Or a little bit lower. So now you kind of get an idea. And it's usually about 2 eye heights down. So this height right here, one more time, and then one more time, it gets you right around there. Now you know roughly how the bag of the eye should be as far as distance, okay? That's just a mental note. I kind of try to memorize that. I suggest you try to. And then you can fit, and that varies, several eyes height upwards to the top of the eyebrow. It could be as many as 3, it could be 4, it all depends. Asian people have smaller, thinner eyes, and so they can fit probably a little bit more than, say, a Caucasian person with larger, rounder eyes, okay? Now, the same thing applies to the nose. I'm gonna just draw her nose over here. And I'm just gonna invent some proportions because, again, I'm trying to speed this up. So let's just say that's how wide the nostrils are, and then the bottom of the nose is right there, okay? How high is the nose? People are always looking up here when I say that. I'm talking about the height of the nostrils, right here. You know that little wing of the nose? How high did that go before it disappears into the flesh? It gives you this little rectangle that's similar to the eye. So I'm gonna go in there, I'm just gonna eyeball those proportions to save time, and say that let's just say that was my, let me move the camera like that. There we go. So let's just say that that's the proportions for the left and right and top and bottom of the nostrils, okay? Now I look at this nose and I say, okay, what's in this nose that I need to know? Well, I need to know the center of that space, roughly the center, when I put the middle of it, little left of middle, is where the edge of this nostril is. So I'm gonna go to more or less the middle of it. And now I know That's the edge of her left nostril. And then in this space right here that I'm looking at, where did that nostril end? Right about here, little left of center of this little space. So that's gonna be somewhere around there. And then the bottom of her nose is right here, and then which is where the nostril starts there, and the other nostril starts there. So I'm just gonna copy more or less what I see in those proportions. See, there's a little piece here, a little piece there. And how high up are the nostrils? People just kind of start taking wild guesses and doing all kinds of bizarre stuff. From the bottom to the top of the nostrils, look at the top of the nostril. I'm gonna draw a little line for you, a little horizontal line. It's not that low or that high. It's a little lower than halfway, right? From here, okay, from here to here, in that little space, how high up did I have to go to the top of the nostril, from one to the other? This line, right? This little space is less than half of this thing, right? I'm gonna go into something that reflects roughly that, and I do that. And then it's just a matter of getting your shapes done. And so it does that. Does that. And then I'm just trying to stick within my little boundaries. Now I did this really fast. You would at home be taking, I hope, a heck of a lot more time making sure your proportions are correct, not going into it as fast as I did. And then the shading is what makes her nose look round. Okay, it's not lined because noses, okay, we're not doing cartoon noses where everything has like a sharp edge. It's gonna be our values, okay? How we shade, that's what's gonna make that nose look round to us. That bridge of the nose is gonna come forward, etc. Okay? And so there's the nose, okay? So you see how it's basically the same thing I did with the eye? See how that works? I'm sorry, I keep pushing this up. Let's do that. Can you see how it's essentially the same thing? I got, do this, there we go. A left and right for the eye, a top and bottom for the eye. And then I went and I cut up to get all those little destinations, you know, the pupil, the edge of the iris, etc. Don't you remember doing something like that? I don't know, when we did the entire head, top of the head, bottom of the head, and all the little stuff in between, eyebrow, eyeline, nose, mouth. Same concept, isn't it? Exact same thing. Okay, let's keep going. So let's do the mouth now. So I'm just gonna do a little box. I think the white might work better. Around this mouth line. Now you would need to know just, you know, you would need to know the proportions of the mouth ahead of time, like what we were doing, when we were breaking it down. I'm just making it ginormous here for you guys to see. So there's the box that you would have for the mouth. And the way I got that would be, well, the mouth is sticking out a little bit outside that nostril. It's in line with this nostril, et cetera, okay? So let's just make a box that roughly resembles that box, okay? I think you guys can see that. Let me, something like that. And so her mouth is a little bit of an angle. I kind of like that because it's a little bit more difficult, a little bit more thinking. So there's the box for the mouth, right? Top, bottom, and the two corners of the mouth, right? Top, bottom, two corners of the mouth. Look at where the center of the mouth is. It's not in the center of the box, is it? On a photograph, right? It's, just lift this up a little bit. There we go. It's not in the center of this box, is it? The center of her mouth is right there doing something like this. So it's closer to this left side, isn't it? Way off center. So on my box, just as a mental note, or if you just need to draw it physically, it's about the left third, roughly, of that box. See this little piece right here? Similar thing. Then the peaks come off that center line, right? The little peaks, I mean the little high points of your upper lip. Here's another tip for you guys. When you look at somebody's mouth, bless you, I just saw somebody sneeze. When you look at the tips of somebody's lips, right? Those little tips tend to be roughly going into the center of the nostril holes, okay? The booger holes, I call them. They go pretty much into the middle of them. So those peaks roughly need to align with the center of your nostril holes. If they are way off to one side or the other, you're probably doing it wrong, okay? That's a good way of checking yourself, whether you did the nose wrong or you did the mouth wrong. That's a good way of checking yourself, okay? That's a nice little mental note that I always kind of try to remember. And now let's look at where the mouth line is. It's in an angle, and it's not really in the middle of the top to bottom area. It's probably, I'd say, a hair bit lower than middle. So roughly middle to a little lower than middle. There's the mouth line. And look at the angle that it has, right? It has that angle, and then it starts to come down a little bit. And it goes up like this, and then it kind of comes down over here a little bit. And so it does something like that. It's hard to see in this picture. On your computer, you'll probably like zoom in, but there's a little bit of an angle usually as the lip turns away from us, and it kind of cuts in like this. You don't see the little pointy edge of the lip like you would, you know, like this. You don't see that pointy edge because it's away from us, guys, okay? So this lip over here has like this angled look to it, and then this bottom lip kind of comes down like this, and I'm just drawing what I see shape-wise in that little box. And then this is just a quick sketch. Remember, look at how I'm holding my pencil. Look how light I'm drawing, because I'm probably wrong, and that's okay. I'll go and I'll fix it later. I'll check it out, and I'll play with the little angles and make sure things are, you know, a little bit better. But never get too anal with it. Don't go crazy with it. And this is that little dip where you got the columns of the mouth. It goes up like that. And a lot of times you'll have a division in the light there as the lip also turns away from us here and the light's coming this way. So you'll have more dark here and less dark on this side, just as in the photograph. Here's another tip to remember about lips, because the upper lip is going into our face, okay? Here's the top of the upper lip. It's going inside or towards the inside of our mouth. It is almost always, and again, this depends on the lighting, in shadow, okay? And it is almost always much darker than the bottom lip. Now think about that. If you were to turn her head sideways, you would see her lip. I'll just draw it over here. Her lip would be going in towards the mouth like this, right? In towards her skull. Here's the corner of the mouth, here's the philtrum, here's the nose, okay? See how it's going in? So there's almost always gonna be slightly darker, okay? So really dark, but look at the bottom lip. As soon as the bottom lip starts right at the mouth line, it's already coming out. The bottom lip is always coming out towards the light. Therefore, the bottom lip is always gonna be lighter, or in most cases is lighter than the top lip. Now you know physiologically, right? The science behind why that is true, okay? So now you gotta be careful with that. So this upper lip would need to be slightly darker than the bottom lip, okay? So I'll just do a little bit of shading and some highlight just for fun to show you. And sometimes I'll change values around just for the sake of, you know, fun or to make it interesting. By that, I don't mean I change where the shadows are. You got to be careful with that and know what you're doing, because then you got to change the whole thing around. But just certain things, I'll make them a little brighter than what I see, or maybe a little darker than what I see, just to make it more interesting, more fun. Let's go into this eye over here. And so here is the white, or excuse me, the pink little ledge. Now her eye, because of the way they're shaped and the way they're turned away from the light, they're not very bright. So what I'm gonna do on this drawing of the eye, I'm just gonna play around and I'm just gonna, what the heck was that? I'm gonna play around and I'm gonna just make it a little lighter. Hey Laura, mute your.
I know, Robert. I keep losing you completely. Now I've gotten onto you through my browser instead. I'm trying to mute myself. I don't know where the mute is now. I'm sorry.
Don't worry, take it easy, no worries. Things happen. So, the good thing about being videotaped, The advantage to this is that if you miss anything, you'll be able to go back and see it. Now she does have a little bit of a highlight right up in there. Okay, so I'm just gonna just for fun, I'm just gonna kind of exaggerate it. You can do something like that. You can already see how this is becoming much more three-dimensional. Now notice something here. The upper part, if you look real close inside her eye on your photograph, from the pupil up, it's much darker than from the pupil down. And the reason for that is the eyelid itself has a certain thickness to the flesh there, okay? And that thickness is coming off the eyeball and therefore casting a shadow down onto the whites of the eyes. And in other words, the upper part of the eye on the inside here is gonna be a little darker than the bottom half. In most cases, because in most cases, light's coming from the top, the sun, a light fixture, whatever, right? Unless there's a bizarre situation that's coming from the side or whatever. But most of the time, it's coming from top. And you'll notice that the outside of the iris, regardless of the color of your eye, the outside of the iris is always darker than the inside. So if you got brown eyes, the outside is almost like a black, but then the inside would be the brown or blue or green or whatever it is. And then the bottom half of this iris, as you can see, I'm making it a little lighter because that's the way it is in the photograph. Look at that eye, man. Isn't that fun? And my dirty little stump, I'm gonna leave it nice and dirty. I'm gonna let it go into the wide of the eyes, like so. Then I'm gonna make it so it looks a little that wetness from the liquid or from the moisture that we have in our eyes. There's some of that little bit of the white into the shelf, that little pink shelf that we have for the bottom eyelid. And then because our eye is a sphere, the center of that sphere that's catching most of the light, and then it starts to reduce in light downward and upward, right? As that top part is catching light. So it's not really gonna be light all the way down to the bottom of the eyelid, although it can be. I'm gonna do that, just put a little bit there. I'm hoping to show you guys a little bit of shading as I do this. And do something like that. The upper eyelid can seem rather thick sometimes because of the quality of our photographs. It's the eyelashes being, when you look at the eyelash, straight on, the thickness of the eyelashes looking at you straight on can add what would look like a thicker line. And it's not that it's a thicker line, it's just the eyelashes all combined into one big black line. And so you get something that looks like that. And this is how I do the eyelash. I just use a kind of squiggly line, make it a little thicker. Do that, and you get something like so. And the back of the eyes. Shading in there. I'm gonna leave the lines because, that helps people to see what I'm talking about. Now, as far as the nose goes, there's so much crap on here. Sometimes I like to just invent things, and the nose being a big ball with two little balls adjacent to it and penetrating it, I'm gonna go like this. I see like a light section here. I'm drawing it very lightly, and then I'm gonna do a little ball, I guess, a little dot, and just expand outward from that. And I like to do my whites, okay, all the white. I like to do that last. I'm only doing this in the classroom environment where I do it now because I'm in a classroom. I want to show you how to do it. I'd leave all my whites until after all my darks and my shadows and stuff are put in. It just works out better that way for you. And it's a safer way to work. You don't have to put on so many band-aids later on trying to fix things. So now I'm just gonna keep it going. Here's a little fact about light and the cartilage in your nose. You'll notice a lot of times that when you're looking at a photograph, you're like, man, it doesn't make sense. On the shadow side of the nose, you have like a strong shadow right adjacent to light, right? That's called terminator. And then right around the edge of the nostril, and sometimes on the outside edge of the nostril and right on the nostril holes, you'll sometimes have, see if I can reproduce that, like a little, almost like a glow, like it's not as dark as you would think it is, considering it's on the shadow side. The reason for that is that the nose is made out of pretty much the same thing as your ears, and it's very translucent. Okay, it's a transparent kind of material. And so your light will transfer through all this flesh and bounce around, and it kind of gives a little glow around those edges. And so sometimes it'll look a little lighter on those outside edges than what you would have thought, considering that, man, that's deep into the shadows. Shouldn't that be pitch black? Right? And it becomes confusing that way. You're like, man, this doesn't make sense to me, Robert. You know, but there it is. It's right there in your photograph. And so now you know the science behind it. And same thing with your ears can have a similar effect. And so here's some just basic sort of shading. And there you go, there's that. And then here's the lip. I'll tell you, it's really kind of uncomfortable drawing from this flat surface. I'm just not used to drawing flat. I like having it parallel to me, the easel. But it's making me feel like I'm not sure if I'm not sure what this looks like to you guys. I feel like I might not be getting the right proportions because it feels like it's elongated as it's laying flat, but we'll see. So now the bottom lip, right? There's another little tip. I'm trying to give you as many little tips as I can before, you know, class ends. And then that's it. I'll see you again for God knows how long. So you got the little pinks of the lip, right? The actual, you'll notice that there's sometimes a little space, and you can see it on her, a little space beyond the pink of her lip, and it does this thing. It gives you like this little border. I'm gonna put a little white just so you know what I'm talking about, right? So between the pink of her lip and then the shadow underneath her lip, there's this border of white, right? This little no man's land, right? The neutral zone for you Star Trek geeks. You know, what is this area? What the heck is going on there? That's because the pink of your lip ends, and this is still flesh, and then it folds down and becomes the chin area, right? This little dip that you have there. So that little area can catch a little light. Now that can be significant on some people. On others, it's almost imperceptible. Okay, you almost don't see it. So you just got to kind of use common sense, you know, look at what you're looking at, right? And pay attention. What do you see? What do you actually see? And then draw what you actually see. Don't start making things up. A lot of times I see these websites and companies and books and all this nonsense, and they're talking about draw what you know, or draw with your head, or I don't know, some crazy comment. I'm like, that makes no sense to me. If you don't know anything, how can you draw what you know? You don't know anything. That's ridiculous. I draw what I see. What I see is right here, and I see a little light between the lip and her chin. The end, it's there. It's not a lie. I'm not making it up. It's right freaking there, right? So don't be drawing what you think you see. A lot of times what you think is wrong. Rather draw what you actually see in front of you. Now I'm going to jump over the eye real quick so I just remembered. I'm doing the bottom eyelash, and I skip a little bit of space. The biggest problem I see with bottom eyelashes, I'm not sure if you can see, I'm going to exaggerate mine just because I think you can't really see them. I don't like making them that long. But what you want for the bottom eyelashes, let me just come over here and do the eyelash real fast. You want that. You want space, because the bottom eyelashes there's less of them and there's more space in between them. Okay? You have any doubts? Am I making this up? Is this crazy Cuban guy just inventing nonsense? Look in the mirror. Okay? You'll learn a lot by looking at the people around you and looking at the mirror. None of this stuff is made up. Look in the mirror and you will see your bottom eyelashes, there's less of them and there's more spacing in between them. Your upper eyelashes, there's a whole heck of a lot more of them, right? And they're really bushy and they're close together. And so you get this dark, thick looking line, and it's just a bunch more hair. That's all that is, okay? And then, I'm not kidding. Go look on your mirror and look at yourself. And really, it's through observation that I learned all this. I didn't learn a damn thing in college, okay? It's through observation. I just look at people around me, and I say, you know, black, white, female, male, pretty much everybody has the same thing going on with this thing over there, with the mouth, with the eye, with the whatever. And you start seeing similarities in the human race. And then you'll start seeing some different things or slight differences within the races of the human race, right? So let's talk about minor differences. Here we got an Asian girl. The eye count usually for what we consider the average, I'm talking Caucasian or black, regular round-eyed people, usually you have 5 eye widths across, and it's about 5 eye heights down to the nose line. In her case, you got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 roughly. Now, why is that? The reason for that is because she's Asian. She has thinner eyes. Her eyes just aren't as open as a white or a black European person or African person. You understand? And so physiologically, she's still built like the rest of the human race. It's just she's going to have minor differences when it comes to her eyes. That's why when you see Asian eyes, they stand out to us because that's outside of what we normally see, right? So you look at that and you say, oh, okay, so if you have a higher eye count from top to bottom, eyelash to eyelash, it's usually that space 5 times roughly to the bottom of the nose. But an Asian person almost every time has a larger eye count because their eyes are thinner, right, from top to bottom. So you see the logic behind that, how that makes sense? Then you look at the nose. Both white and Asian pretty much have a nose that is roughly goes from the tear duct to the tear duct. And that's most people, most people. Now the race that you'll normally see a much wider nose, right? And if you could turn a person in profile, like a side view, their nose is closer to the skull are African people or black people. Why? It's just, I don't know, I have no idea why. It's just the way you're built. So when you look at someone racially on a photograph, you're like, wow, I'm about to draw this black guy or an Asian girl or whatever. Having those little mental notes in the back of your head will help you to make better decisions. So when you're drawing and you're like, you know, this doesn't look like Uncle Bob. You know, what the heck is going on? Maybe you made the nose too narrow and Uncle Bob's nose can be significantly wider, right? Or maybe it's, say they're in profile, it's closer to their skull because Uncle Bob might be a black guy. Or it could just be that they're a white guy, but that's just the way they're built. So you never want to jump to conclusions based on race either, because then you may fall into a trap where you're doing a generic thing rather than what you actually see in front of you. So my key thing that I always teach my students is it's good to know that women are this way and men are that way. Black is one way, Asian is one way, and then white is another way. It's good to know that, but always check. Always double check, because that individual is just that, it's an individual. And they may not conform to those so-called normalities or those little things that I just pointed out to you guys, okay? So don't ever just think because it's a female, it's gonna be this way. Now, what's the difference that I normally see in females? Their chin, the bottom part of their chin, okay? I know I'm not drawing a lot right now, but I find that this information is more helpful than sitting here watching my little pencil go around. I'm gonna finish her, I promise, and you'll have a whole video. This is just extra. The chin on a woman, right down here in this area, is narrower than a man. On a man, if you look in the mirror, you look at your wife, you're gonna notice that a man's chin, most of the time, why did I just say you check, right? Most of the time, a man's chin is about as wide as their mouth, roughly, okay? Roughly. A woman's chin tends to be a little narrower. They have pointier, rounder chins than a male, okay? That's a great tip if you're drawing, you know, Aunt Susie rather than Uncle Bob, okay? Here's an age difference. Children, right? Infants to like toddlers, they have a bizarre, just crazy amount of proportion that just doesn't even exist in the regular sized person. So a little boy or a little girl or a little baby, they could have maybe instead of one eye's distance in between the pupils, in between the tear ducts, they'll have as many as 1.5 to 2 eyes. Their eyes are further apart. That's because the skull is still forming. You know, all those platelets they talk about in your skull, they're still forming. And so you'll have bizarre things. A lot of those papers that I emailed you guys, I hope you guys enjoyed that stuff and you all received them. Those things won't necessarily apply to a child because their head is still developing, okay? So hopefully these little tips give you a little heads up on what to expect. When you're looking at values, You're going to look at values of darks and lights, and you're going to look at them just like you do with proportions. You're going to just proportionally darker than this thing. That's the way you're thinking. What's the darkest spot on my paper, right? On the person. Well, the hair, the iris, the mouth area right here in the shadow, they are all roughly the same value, let's say. Then they need to be roughly the same value on your drawing. You can't have it in different values on your drawing because then things aren't going to look right. They're going to look off. If it's a mid value, say over here and over here, then it needs to be mid value over here or the same spots on your paper. And if it's a little lighter over here underneath this eye than over here, then it needs to be a little lighter on this eye in your drawing than over there. And so on and so forth. You're comparing values from one area of the face to the other, and then you're trying to make that happen on your drawing. So you know what? Why don't we, I'm gonna sketch a little bit, and we got like, I think it's over at 12:30, we got a few minutes. If you wanna unmute yourself and ask me a couple of questions before class ends, I would love to ask or answer any questions from you guys. Something I said that maybe is a little confusing. Remember, you have a video, so you can always go back and double check this.
Robert, it's Laura. What I tried to do, why I didn't have any of this done, was I thought it would be fun for me to try to do this Oriental lady on black paper with white. So I copied the photo and I just made it black and white.
Uh-huh.
I was having the worst time trying to do that. I finally got just fed up and you know.
Yeah, this photograph, I wouldn't recommend this photograph for the white chalk and black paper that you saw me do with Darth Vader and other things you've seen me do.
Okay, no.
I would do it with a photograph that has already the black background and the very dramatic lighting. And you can go on Google and type in, I type in sometimes faces in low light.
Okay. All right. I was just kidding. I was like, oh, why can't I do this? It was just because I thought there was so much contrast here that it would, because I loved doing it before.
Yeah.
I thought it would be an easy one to do, but it was.
I would love to do that with you guys in the future classes, assuming you guys come back and all that, and this whole thing works out with the online classes. I do at least one or two figures in my regular class session. We do one red chalk at least, which is another whole thing. I didn't even bring one of those. So we do quite a bit for you guys that just met me and don't realize what it is I do in my class. We do in my class an enormous amount of work. You come in my class, you better be ready to work and learn. We do a ton of different things. I'll explain a little bit of figure drawing. We'll do the white chalk on black paper thing. We'll do that. Just a ton of really what I consider to be fun projects. And it's exciting to go into so many different genres of drawing, right? Like talking about the proportions of the human body and all of that. That's just a fun thing to do for me as an instructor. And then to see my students grow and understand, you know, how to do all this stuff that they couldn't do before. You know, Laura and Norma, you guys have been with me for a couple of years now, and you guys have just exploded, man. Your work is amazing. And you guys see it every week when they bring stuff in. Now I'm just drawing the shape of things, the proportions. I'm looking at this outside line. You know, and remember, I'm drawing this very, very lightly. I want you to always remember, look at my pencil, how I hold it. The next time you guys go on YouTube, you know, look at how that guy holds his pencil. That doesn't necessarily make you a better or worse artist or anything. But to me, it definitely shows somebody who understands this craft more, is when I see people hold the pencil properly. So it's such a basic thing. And I'm drawing right now what would basically be the outside edges of these little shadows, okay? Again, I'm doing them extremely light because shadows don't have sharp edges. They're like the backside of a caterpillar. They're furry and loose and mushy. You don't want to, you know, make hard lines because then it's going to look really like a comic book. It's going to look bizarre. Okay, it's not gonna look realistic. So I'm doing that. And notice I'm just kind of scared. And this would be the same thing I'd be doing in a life drawing class. Same thing. Oh, I believe they used to, I don't know what they're gonna do this year, but on Tuesday evenings, they had a live model come in the nude.
Good.
That on Tuesday evenings. The Thursday morning, yeah, that was a great class. I tried making it a few times, but I usually teach my live class Tuesdays all day. I can't sit here till 6 o'clock at night waiting for that class to start to be for here for another 3 hours to draw a naked girl. As much as I like naked women, I don't like them. I've been married for too long. I'm good. I'll just go home like, hey, take your clothes off, woman. Okay, there you go. I'm done. Okay. I couldn't do it all day at work doing this and then wait for 2, 3 hours to sit for 3 more hours to draw a naked girl or a guy. I don't have the energy. But if you guys have that time and they offer it, I highly suggest you do it. Again, that's instructed. Yeah, there's no instructor. It's just you coming in and it's a very friendly atmosphere, great people, and just practice drawing. I'm gonna have to edit that part where I said, hey, honey, take your clothes off. I know, right now the people in the back office are looking at this video and they're all saying, oh, Robert, you did it again. You did, you're all laughing. Right? That's the only thing that sucks about video today. I'm like, I did it again. I gotta go edit this damn thing. That's why I like my live class. I say all kinds of nonsense and everybody giggles and laughs. I don't gotta edit anything. There we go. So,
This is a hard one.
and try practicing. Remember, just for your own mind, practice people looking straight on. Okay. And the reason I say that, it's just easier for you to practice. What the hell is all that stuff?
How's this, Robert?
A sword over there or something?
How does that look?
Oh, very nice. Now you went a little bit quick. A little bit quick. I want you to slow down. Okay?
I think she's crooked though. Is her mouth, something about her mouth or her face looks a little off?
Your eyes. And hold it up a little bit more towards center and up. There we go, right there. I see her eyes a little bit crooked. They're a little too angled, or this angle, whatever the angle is. They're a little too angled. Remember that eyes. Let me fix my camera here. Let me put it up a little bit higher. Eyes, right? They have to be parallel, right? Remember this part. This is important. Eyes, nose, and mouth. Those 3 features. They have to be parallel to each other. Okay. Yeah. Think about what will physically happen to you to have your eyes go from this, to this angle, and then have the nose go in the opposite angle, and then have your mouth go in that angle.
Oh, yeah. I don't know why I did it like that.
When you draw the lines on your drawing, surface, and you're doing, let me see.
I thought it was, for some reason, I thought one eye was higher than the other, just a little bit, right?
Look up on your camera. So let's just say I was drawing my eye line, and I said the nose is somewhere around there. Just imagine this is an eye line. I want to make this line, make sure the one below it is parallel to it, right? And then I said, oh, the mouth line is supposed to be here. I want to make sure it's parallel to that one above it. They're always going to be roughly parallel. Not to be perfect, but pretty close to parallel. If not, you'll end up getting, crooked eyes, and a crooked mouth, and a crooked nose, and then you're going to be as crooked as the rest of my family. You know what I mean? So you got to be careful not to. You see, I got to edit that part out too.
It looks different.
Isn't her eye, her right eye, while we're facing it, isn't that eye just a little bit higher than the one on the left?
Yeah, it's a little bit higher. It's a little bit higher. So that's what I'm saying. This angle needs to be followed throughout.
Oh, okay.
You got it. Whatever this angle is, you decide to do that angle. The nose should have a similar angle, right? Parallel to that line. And the line below that, the mouth, will be parallel to that. Now, the mouth can be one of those and change sometimes a bit because maybe somebody's doing like a smirk, right? Or you're smiling or something. So the mouth is the one that I would say could change the most. That one could change the most because of the expressions that we make. You're sad, you're happy, you're surprised, whatever, right? So far, I got a fairly decent, okay looking drawing. And now I'm wondering, maybe I'm just looking at it the way I would look at your drawing. I look at my drawing the same way. It feels like the center is a little too large when compared to the forehead and the bottom third. So I'm gonna go double check. Look at how early in the game I can fix this. Very loose, lightly drawn lines. There's nothing permanent here. I didn't scratch this, with deep, harsh lines that would be impossible to erase. No, I keep it very light. Now I'm gonna go compare my center to my forehead. And once you know it, man, my forehead is about almost a little bit bigger than half of my center. So let's see, my forehead should be about half of my center. And it is, it's a little bit more than half. So that, comparing the center to the top third, it's similar on my paper to what I see on my photograph. So let's go on and compare the bottom third of her face, nose to chin, and I'm gonna compare it to the center. And it's a little bit small. I'd say, I don't know, 90% of it. So I wanna make sure that my nose to chin on my drawing is about 90% or so of my center. And it's pretty darn close. So I'm good. I'm seeing proportionately the big stuff. I'm not worried about the little itsy bitsy thing. That's another thing. A lot of you guys, you see this girl and you go grab a pencil and a paper and you're drawing that eye. And that's like the first line you do on the paper, okay? That is everybody's number one mistake. They're looking at the little tiny itsy bitsy pores on the face. That's insane. You need to look at the big stuff, then cut it up into smaller, manageable pieces. And then you get smaller pieces that are still rather large, and then you cut them down into smaller manageable pieces to what's inside of that. And then you get that little piece, like what we just did today with the eye, nose, and mouth that I got up here, and you get that tiny little piece, and you cut that into little itsy bitsy pieces that make sense, so you know where the lip is or the iris compared to the pupil, et cetera, right?
I don't think it's in the right.
We gotta make sure we break those things down. They haven't kicked me out yet, so I'm just gonna keep going. I think this class ends at 1.
Robert, I want to show you, just watching along what you were doing here.
Oh, my Lord, look at you.
Wait a minute.
There you go. Hold it
There
up.
I go.
There you go. Wow. Look at that, guys.
To the eye. And then I should have done these at the right
Look at that.
location, but that was very, very helpful.
It's very, very nice. Now, another thing you can do, I like to do it occasionally in my live classes. I will go online and just find pictures of just eyes, right? Black, white, Asian, whatever.
Lots
Just
of my eyes.
And you'll have just big pictures of eyes. And just draw eyes, right? Just draw a nose. And so you find little things like that. Maybe you're bored, you put your hand down, like so, and you draw your hand, right? You don't even need a computer for that. You got the other hand, right? And you just draw your left hand if you're right-handed. And you just continue it. And you do that, and you practice and practice and practice, and you just eventually you just start seeing it all for yourself. And if you're practicing the comparative measurement thing that I'm teaching you, you're just gonna get it that much faster and that much more accurate. Now she's got high cheekbones because she's Asian. So that means that little turn in her cheek right there is gonna be kind of high up, right? And it's gonna be rather large, I guess you could say. You gotta make sure that it's substantial. Just be careful not to overly do things. As humans, we have a bad habit of overly exaggerating features. We see 1 inch and we draw 10 feet, right? I don't know why we do that. As a species, we tend to just exaggerate all these features. Now, I'm going to show you over here on her right eye how it's all in shade. Different ways you can handle that. Now, I'd want you to, take a heck of a lot longer than me, okay? Do it right. I don't want you to do this the wrong way. I'm just gonna put in some shadow here. I'm just gonna put some material down. I'm gonna just show you how the highlight. Now you see there's a little beam of light right there across the top of her eyelid, and then the same thing a little bit down here across the bottom of her eye. little light area. Okay, that's just the light hitting across, coming across her face. I want to make sure I lose this little line that I used to map out that light and shadow. I don't want it there too much, like so. Now, because that is direct lighting, right? It's because the light's hitting that eyelid. I can put some white into that space. This is a really great picture to explain what I'm about to go into, because it is actual lighting. It isn't secondary light, isn't it? It's not being reflected off of anything. It's actual light source. So now there's a little bit of a highlight right in here, right? Little tiny highlight and a little tiny highlight out here. And that's about it, okay? Now the whites of our eyes are not white. They're actually a gray. Why? Because it's in the shadow. And so I'm gonna go like this. Now watch what I'm gonna do for the highlight. When you look at these glossy things like eyes, in the shadow side as it is in this picture, you don't wanna use the white for the highlight, okay? Rather, you wanna do subtractive drawing. Okay, that means you wanna take away.
That's a good point.
Because if I went in there with white, it would just look too harsh. Okay, watch what I'm gonna do. I'm just gonna use my little eraser like that. There's a little light there. And I'm not sure how, let me see this thing. There we
This
go.
is not,
It's not so harsh. See? That's just erasing out. Now, just for the heck of it, just so I can make my point, I'm gonna get just a little bit of white just to show you the difference. I'm gonna choose this highlight. I'm gonna put white into it, right? And I'm barely touching the paper. I'm just really like, that is just too bright and doesn't necessarily, it doesn't really look right. When you look at the photograph, it isn't as bright as that.
yeah.
You want to make sure you try erasing out first before you grab your white. Hope that made sense to you guys. So now I'm going to follow the same rules I did over there. I could do a heck of a lot better job at the shape of her eyes, but I just want to kind of get this done and make it look good. Oh, there's a little tiny bit of light I see over there. I'm just going to erase a little bit. I'm not erasing out hard. And you can use a kneaded eraser for this, you know, to make it to a point. Some people blend with a kneaded eraser. I've never liked blending with it, but that's your choice. And then this is the shadow being cast by the eyelid and all those eye lashes.
It's actually the width of an eye.
Say what now? And the outside of her face, I got all these little dots that I drew for you guys last week. It's making it hard for me to see the outside of her face, the edge. It's something like that. And another thing that I like to teach my students a while back called RAG, R-A-G. What does RAG stand for? Race, age, gender. That's all RAG stands for, okay? In other words, I'm drawing, okay, an Asian young female, race, age, gender, right? Asian young female. All I want to do with that information is basically, at the end of the day, when I'm looking at my work, I want to step back and look at it and say, I drew a young Asian female. Is that what I have in my photograph? Yes, that's what I have in my photograph. Then you succeeded, okay? You succeeded. I'm drawing, obviously, a young Asian woman. If my drawing looks like a young Asian woman, in my book, you accomplished the mission. You're good. That is something I teach my students just to hopefully take some of that pressure off, that nervousness that people get into because they're drawing their Uncle Bob or whatever. And I would say stay away from drawing people you know, okay? Because sometimes that's, it's a mental thing. Now, if you don't have that problem, knock yourself out. People have, you know, they get really nervous because it's their uncle, their best friend, whoever. And they want to make sure it looks just like them, and they got all this undue pressure. I noticed in the past, the more I worried about getting it to look like a person, the less it would look like that person. Isn't that crazy? When I stopped worrying about making it look like the guy I was drawing, right? It started to look like the person, right? I'm drawing my buddy Johnson, this dude that I knew when I was in the Marines. I'm sorry, not Johnson, I forget his name, Nichols or whatever. And he's this black young guy. Black young guy on my paper to say I succeeded, right? Or I'm drawing an older white female. If that's what's on my paper, on my photograph, then on my drawing, I need to have an old white lady. And if I had an old white lady here, and that's what's on my picture, I succeeded. Did it look exactly like her? Also, but if it doesn't look exactly like her, don't beat yourself up is what I'm trying to say, okay? Just try to get the race, the age, and the gender right. And everything else will make its way towards progress. It'll eventually, it will get there, okay? Just be patient with yourself. Now, if you see that the highlight is a little too bright, even when you do the erasing thing, right? You go like this and you dirty it up a little bit with the charcoal, and it just pushes the highlight back, and it keeps it from being so overly bright. And it just looks, right now, it's looking much better. This little recess right here, guys, in the by the nose bridge, adjacent to the eye. There, it tends to be darker because this little area right here in our eye, see that? It sinks in a lot. Move this camera a little bit. There we go. In here, it sinks in a lot, right? And then you have this wall, right? That's blocking the light from getting to the other side. And so it becomes very dark in there. Okay, be careful not to go black. Okay, it's not that dark, but a lot of times it'll be darker than the adjacent area. And so it just needs to make sense. If you're not sure about the spacing between the eye and the eyebrow, I look at the eye height, and it's almost the same as the eyebrow at its thickest point. See that? And then if I cut this meaty space in half, it's almost 1, 2, 3, 4 eyes in height, roughly. So I need 1, 2, 3, 4 eyes in height. And if you don't got a question, make sure you mute yourself, because then the computer will actually take the image to that person, and then later on editing it becomes a nightmare. And so the eye height went from 1, 2, 3, 4 roughly. Now I'm close to what I see there, so I just had to bring it up just a hair. You see how I'm getting a nice resemblance, I think. With a little, it's starting to look like her. There's a little bit of an angle coming off the nose. Now I'm going to erase the, oh, there's another tip. I almost always forget to do it because when I'm in class teaching, but at home, I try to make sure I remember. Erase out all of this nonsense, all these little lines. Once you know, and you don't go into this shading stuff right now. Okay, this is one of those do as I say, not as I do situations, okay? Because I'm teaching and I want to give you information. Erase out all these lines once you've seen that, you know what, I like the way the nose is, my mouth, the proportions are right, you know, things look right. If it looks right to you and you start drawing in the, you know, the shape of the eyes and nose, everything, if it looks right to you, make sure you erase out all these lines before you start shading. If not, you'll get all these lines showing up in your shadows and lights, and it's a nightmare to get rid of later on, okay? Do yourself a favor. Once you see it looks good, I like it, yeah, it looks like Uncle Bob, great. Erase out all these little stupid lines first. Okay, I kind of skipped it. I'm trying to move quick, but you guys at home have plenty of time. and try to work if you can. Okay, I try to work from top left to bottom right because I'm right-handed. It's just more comfortable. If you're left-handed, you would work from top right to bottom left, like that. You would work this way if you're left-handed. You work this way if you're right-handed. It just keeps your hand over bare paper, you know, and not so much charcoal, so there's less of a mess. I like this brush, by the way. I don't know anymore. American Painter #4 round. Any softish kind of brush from Michaels will do.
It's beautiful.
We need an angle for the eyebrows that is similar to the eyes.
Ended up getting different looks. Yeah. And had a lot of mistakes on this. No, that's right. It's the same.
Make sure we mute ourselves, guys. That way we don't come off on the video. Unless you got a question, that's a different story. Unless you got a question. Remember to look over all those documents I emailed you guys. I know it's not the most funnest thing to do sometimes, but I did them for a reason, okay? They're not out of some book. That's all the stuff in my brain. See this little ridge right on top of the eye? Excuse me, on top of the eyebrow? A lot of times it can catch light right up in here, right? Now, again, I call that the Neanderthal effect. How much of a Neanderthal are you? Well, if you ask a lot of my ex-girlfriends and my wife, I'm like 100% Neanderthal. Even some of my students say that. Never understood that. Now, what I mean by that is this big old ridge right here. Now, I notice on Asian people, they tend to have flatter faces. That ridge isn't as prominent as black and white people. So that's kind of one of those racial things that as soon as I see it's an Asian person, most of the time, I don't know, 9 times out of 10, the ridge here isn't so prominent. And you look over here on the shadow side, you see how the shadow just kind of continues? It doesn't really like, you don't get a real bump of light and then it becomes shadow. It just kind of continues. You'll see that a lot in Asians, okay? But again, remember what I said, check, never just assume, check. But on other races, you'll notice there'll be a little ridge right here. And you'll remember that little paper I sent you with all the little worms on the face? You'll notice that's one of the ones I pointed out. And that's where, all that means is it catches a lot of light, okay?
Robert,
Yeah.
does this look Asian?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that looks very much like her. That looks really nice. Now you got a little bit, be careful with the angle of the eyes. Remember that they need to be in line with each other. You don't want an eye that looks like this, for example.
Right.
Another eye that looks like this, like the two, you know what I mean?
But he does look Asian. I tried to.
Oh, yeah, I love her, what would be her right eye. This eye on yours looks really good, and the other eye looks really good. It could have, maybe this eye here,
Yeah,
come down just a little bit.
a little bit more. I already moved her down a little bit. I didn't realize there was quite such an angle on her, so that's why. I'm going to continue working. I just wanted to ask
Well, that looks really
the race part. Thanks.
for the rag. Really nice. I hope that rag acronym, that little idea I came up with, okay? That is just, it's just meant to put your nerves at ease, okay? So just remember, race, age, gender. You just want to make sure you get the age right, that it looks like a white guy, a black guy, whatever, that it's a guy and not a gal. Okay, you don't want a white guy in his 90s and then your drawing looks like a black girl in her 20s. Holy crap. You know, you need to stop drinking before you draw. There's something seriously wrong with you, right? I mean, that's a huge difference, right? I mean, you got it all wrong. Race, age, gender, you know, what the hell are you doing? So that all that is just to put your mind at ease. So just take a deep breath, look at your paper, just take a deep breath and be like, you know what Rob said, man, I just need to get the race, age, gender right. And that's it. And if you just concentrate on getting those 3 things and you worry about the proportions, the look that it looks like your Uncle Bob, it just happens by itself. It'll just happen. It'll almost sneak up on you. You're like, holy crap, it looks like the guy. You know, if it sneaks up on you, you're probably doing it right.
One thing I find helpful in doing any kind of drawing is when something doesn't quite look right, I'll hold it up to a mirror. Or if I'm out painting outside, I'll take a picture of it and then flip it the other way. And sometimes when you look at it backwards, you can see what's wrong.
Yeah, yeah. I used to do that when I was drinking a lot. It never worked out though. Like I told you that. What's up?
1 o'clock.
1 o'clock. Oh, hey guys.
Before you quit, what pencil are you using? Are you using a soft lead now, or are you using a harder
No,
lead?
I do 90 some odd % with the HB hard, and then occasionally, if I need to get really dark, you know, for some reason, it doesn't always require. I'll move over to a medium. Always a safer bet is to go a little darker rather than jumping all the way to a soft. Because then, what if you went too dark? It's hard to fix that. So if I want to go low, I'll go to a medium, and if it's still not good enough, then I go to a soft, and then rarely I go to an extra soft. Okay, that's just a safer way. Hey, dude. Great question. Anybody else before I take off? We're all good?
No, thank you very much.
Awesome.
Wonderful class.
Great. I hope to see you in the near future. Keep practicing. Send me an email with your a picture of what you did. You know, I'd love to see your work, man. Okay?
What about the pastel class too, Robert?
Yeah, I'm gonna see what I can work out with them for the pastel workshop. And see if we can work something out.
I sent an email.
All right.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much,
It's
Robert.
wonderful, wonderful. Thank you, Robert.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.